some more folks will join, but I think we should kick it off. I would like to thank everyone for joining us today. We have a very special guest, two special guests, I should say. We have the Executive Director of the IDG Benefits, and we have Professor Minna Kotkin from Brooklyn Law School here to help us answer some questions about unemployment and PUA and what this world kind of looks like. And so over the last several days, we've been collecting questions from IDG members, packaging up. We'll have the IDG stewards ask the questions as we go through. We'll also be monitoring the question section in case we have missed a question to make sure that we try to get that in. I ask everyone to listen. There's a lot of good information that we're going to be getting out today, and hopefully this is going to be help us in the long run in filing our claims and filing our unemployment and making sure that we're getting what we deserve. Before we turn it to the professor, I am going to introduce Andrew Greenblatt from the Executive Director of IDG Benefits and Driver Benefits. Andrew is the person behind all the benefits for drivers, getting them, making sure that they're out there, making sure that they're utilized, and helping the drivers through his call center, answer any questions, and make sure that they're being connected to the right resources. Andrew is also instrumental in getting the professor to the webinar today, and preparing and making sure that we're going to be able to get a full conversation as possible around unemployment. I think we all recognize how important it is, how chaotic it is, how difficult it's been for drivers. And I just want to say, thank you to Andrew and the professor for coming on. And Andrew, I'll pass to you.
Great, thanks, Brendan. Hello, everybody. First, some people may have come to this webinar because you're a Driver's Benefits member and you've signed up for that and got an email directly from Driver's Benefits. Just want to let you know that we're a co-host today, co-hosting with the Independent Drivers Guild. Brendan is the head of the Independent Drivers Guild. After we're done talking about unemployment benefits, members of the Guild will continue this meeting as a general meeting, and all Drivers Benefits drivers are welcome to stay on for that meeting as well if you want to learn more about the Independent Drivers Guild and all the great work they've been doing. So I wanted to say that. For those of you who've come not through Drivers Benefits, but through the Independent Drivers Guild, I'm going to be stay on after the professor's over and talk just for a few minutes about what benefits are available to drivers. It includes free telemedicine. You can go see a doctor on your phone anytime you want. We've given away free flu shots, and around this what we're talking about today, we have several pages on our website talking about the different kinds of things that are available to help people with financial issues they're having, including a whole page that takes you through question by question how to apply for your unemployment benefits. So stay on afterwards, and I'll talk for a few minutes about that. Okay, I'm going to hand this over now to Aziz from the Independent Drivers Guild. He'll be leading the rest of this conversation with the professor along with other stewards from the Guild, but I'll come back at the end of that. So thank you very much, and thank you very much to Professor Kotkin for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Brandon, and thank you to all the drivers that tune in today for this special webinar with our special guest, of course, Professor Minna Kotkin. So we've received over 1,000 questions. And of course, we're not gonna have time to cover all of it, but we'll do our best to cover most of it. And drivers are still, joining. We are at 97 and growing. And this just shows like the level of interest drivers have, on this topic, and that's very important to them to get certain clarity because there is a lot of confusion out there. So once again, thank you, Professor. So we're gonna give the professor some minute to say hello to the audience, and then we're just gonna kick it off with questions. Professor, welcome.
Great, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here to have the opportunity to talk to you today. I know how difficult this must be. Everyone, all workers are terribly frustrated with the New York State Department of Labor. It's just a big mess. And I'm afraid that a lot of your questions I won't be able to answer because they just involve persevering and trying to get through to a live human being on the phone. But I'll do my best. I'm just hoping that, it won't be long before everyone is back to work in some capacity, and everyone will get, you should be aware that everyone will get retroactive benefits. They'll get benefits from the time that they applied, from the time they were out of work. It's going to take a while, but you will get the money. I know that doesn't put food on the table now, but it will come in. Okay, and just a little bit of my background. I teach at Brooklyn Law School. I've taught there for, I think, 35 years. I do run a program, an employment law clinical program for law students in normal times, but starting on June 1st, we've recruited 100 law students, I think it's 108 law students right now, who are going to provide individual legal advice and representation. I will send on the intake form for that, but we encourage you to fill out that form and we will get back to you in the first week of June. A law student will be able to assist you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor. So now I have the first question coming from Nuruddin Baraha. And the question is, what's the difference between pandemic unemployment assistance and unemployment insurance?
Unemployment insurance has been around since 1935, and it's just the benefit that workers get if they're regular employees, if they work and are salaried workers and get a W-2 for tax season. And those, up until now, have been the only kinds of employees that have been eligible to get unemployment insurance benefits. With the pandemic, Congress decided to grant benefits to workers who are self-employed or independent contractors. And that's what's called PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So that you can be eligible for that if you're self-employed or an independent contractor, as opposed to someone who gets a W-2. So that's the major difference. There are differences in the benefits as well. For pandemic unemployment assistance, the independent contractor type, the minimum is higher. It's $182 a week. For regular unemployment, I think the minimum is $104. The maximum is the same for both programs, which is $504. In addition, you get what's called PUC, Pandemic Unemployment Compensation, which is the extra $600 a month. So that's a basic outline.
Thank you so much. I mean, that can definitely help a lot of people because there is like this huge confusion. People are not sure what's what basically. So I'm gonna hand it over to Jackie. He got a question coming from a driver.
Yes, hi, how you doing, Professor? So I have a question from, can everyone see me? Okay, great. So how you doing, Professor? So I have a question from one driver, Jeffrey Clark. How long will we be eligible for PUA?
PUA is right now, it will be, the first chunk is 26 weeks. It's been extended for another 13 weeks. So that's a total of 39 weeks. Now I should tell you that in the recession of 2009, unemployment was extended time after time to almost 2 years. I think it was a total of 96 weeks. Now that hasn't happened yet, but it is possible that if this continues in a bad way, it will be extended beyond the 39 weeks. Now, the $600 the extra $600 is due to expire July 31st. Whether Congress extends that is an open question. Certainly they're trying to.
Great. Thank you very much, Professor. I'll hand it over to Michelle.
Hello, Professor Kotkin.
Hi.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
It's nice to have you here. So the question is coming from Graciano Lorenzi. How many hours can you work, or how much money can you make for your unemployment to not be affected?
Okay. You have to earn less than $504 per week. And this gets a little complicated. For every day you work, okay, unemployment subtracts 1/4 of your benefit. So in other words, if you work 4 days a week, you get no unemployment insurance benefit for that week, okay? So what we advise people to do is to work as much as possible in as few days, so that if you work 12 hours 1 day a week, you get 3/4 of your unemployment. If you work 2 days a week, 6 hours, you only get half of your unemployment. So the more you can concentrate your work in 1 or 2 days, the greater your benefit. But in any case, if you earn $504 in 1 day, which would be pretty good, you would not get any benefit.
Great. Thank you so much, Professor Kotkin.
Thank you, thank you. So yeah, that would be great to make $504 a day. I'll go look for a job like right now. So I'm bringing in Tina for the next question. Thanks, Professor. Okay, look like Tina's not there. So you here?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Professor. Thanks for being here. I have a question for Mohammed Ahmed. Hi, I applied for PUA last week and got approved yesterday. My last day at work was 3/22, and the business closed 3/23, and I filed the date according to my claim. I want to know, could I be getting backdated all the way to 3/22?
Yes.
Even though I applied last week?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The answer is yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor.
Great. So for all those guys that have those questions about retro pay, of course, you will get retro pay. And that's great because a lot of people, you know, kind of were late filing or, you know, just didn't know that's an option they had. But of course, you will go ahead and get that retro pay. That's great. So our next question will is coming from Henry.
Hi, Professor. I have a question from Mohammed. His question is, I applied for the unemployment, but I haven't get any response from the Labor Department. What should I do?
So someone applied for unemployment and they haven't had any response. Is that the question?
Correct.
This is the question that a lot of people have. There are a number of things you can do. On the website of the Department of Labor, you have to go look at your application and see if you've got any messages, okay, on the website. If you haven't, you can send a message saying what's going on with my application. You have to give them the last 4 digits of your social security number and a way to contact you. You can try to call. People are beginning to get through. It's very frustrating. People have had some success calling their state representatives, either their state assembly person or their state senator. You can also call the governor's office, and these numbers are all online, or I can send them off if you need them. And, you know, you're on hold for a while with the governor's office, but apparently they are putting people through to the Department of Labor. Other things that people have done is that you can send a tweet on the Department of Labor website. Various people have had success with these avenues, but it's all very frustrating because if you've made a mistake in your application, which a lot of people have, because the questions are confusing, you have to get in touch with them by phone or by email.
Thank you so much. And yeah, the next question is coming from Johan. And before I bring Johan in, I'm just giving the option to letting all drivers, all the people that are watching us, that they can still keep on asking questions, use the chat room to send in their questions, and we'll try to cover as much as we can. So Johan, what's your question?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Professor, thank you for being here. This question is from Jitender. I receive $182 unemployment and $600 PUA. Lots of my friends get more money employment than me, but they make less money than me. How can I change this?
Okay. You should have gotten in the mail, although we all know what the mail is like these days, something called a monetary determination. And that's how they calculate your rate. You have, if you go to the website, you can ask for a reconsideration of your monetary determination. And that's how you can convince them that you're entitled to more per week. In general, if you're a 1099 employee, you have to submit your 1099s and your Schedule C, and they calculate your benefits on the basis of your net income, not your gross income. So you should know that. But the best avenue to take is to find the form for reconsideration of your monetary determination.
Thank you, Professor.
To unmute myself. Thank you so much, Professor. And the next question is coming from Guillermo. Guillermo, unmute yourself.
Let me just say one thing. I see that there are some people who are asking questions about getting denied.
Right.
If you're denied, you have 30 days to request a hearing, and there's a time form to request a hearing. Now, no hearings have been being held through March, April, and May, but the Department of Labor is starting hearings again as of May 28th. Now, it's very important that they have your right address in case you've moved or your address has changed. So you got to make sure they have your right address, and you have to keep your eyes out for a hearing notice, which will be mailed to you, because you only get it, you know, about a week before the hearing is scheduled. And if you get a hearing notice, you really should try to get some legal help. All the hearings are conducted by phone, by the way.
Yeah, that's great. One of those questions keep coming back, and most drivers, of course, you know, part of when they are applying, because of the language barrier or sometimes the way they word the questions, they click no while they were supposed to click yes and whatnot. So usually that results in their benefits being rejected, they are denied. So when they're denied, how fast can they get an appeal? And I think that's what you just touched on right now, but we would like to kind of expand on that a little bit, please.
When you make a mistake, and a lot of people have made mistakes, especially about that telework question, which was really badly worded. It said, you know, can you telework? And people have said yes, when the answer should be no. I mean, that the point of the question was whether your employer offered you telework. And if your employer didn't offer you telework, the answer is supposed to be no. Now, the Department of Labor is aware that that was a confusing question and it stumped a lot of people. So the best thing to do in that circumstance is to try to get through by phone. If you can't get through by phone, try to do it on the secure email system that they have. And while you're at it, take a screenshot, if you can, of your secure email so you have a record of when you submitted it.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll bring in Guillermo.
Good afternoon to the driver's audience. Thank you, Professor, to be with us. So I have a question from the driver, Gurvinder Singh. So the question is, can Uber drivers take unemployment and SBA loan at the same time?
That's a pretty complicated question. And the answer is unclear. You can qualify for PPP, which is the payroll protection plan, if you're a single employee, but it's probably not advisable because they're not going to let you, under that plan, you're only entitled to $1,000 if you're only a single employee. As far as the small business loans, it's still not very clear. My feeling is that they're not going to let you double dip. They're either going to decide that you're not, if you get a small business loan, they're going to treat you as a proprietor and not as an employee. So I think it's a risky thing to try to do right now. There's a lot of commentary about this. If you Google, SBA loans and unemployment, you'll get a whole lot of information.
Right. All right. Thank you, Professor Kotkin.
Thanks, Guillermo, for your question. Very important. And I want to still stay within that line of question, basically, to kind of bring this issue up where we come across with all the time. Some drivers, let's say driving is their part-time. They still have a full-time job. And now due to the pandemic, they're driving, the income that they were making from driving is heavily impacted. They can no longer make that money, but yet they are still with their full-time job. Are there possibilities for them to still apply for PUA based on the fact that they lost partial income?
Well, the rule still is you can't have more than $504 of income a week, because that's the maximum unemployment benefit. Now, it's a little bit unfair because, for instance, if you had $500 of income a week, you could still qualify for the $600 benefit. But that's the way they worked it. If you make over $504 a week, you're not going to qualify for basically any of the unemployment insurance programs.
Thank you, Professor. I want to bring in Lobby for the next question.
Yeah, thank you, Aziz. And thank to the professor for being here with us. Sorry, we're going to hammer you with a lot of questions tonight.
Okay.
And some of them, if they are repetitive, we apologize for that. But I have this question. What should someone do if they only see a payment for 1 week and not the real retroactive weeks?
You just have to keep waiting. That's all you can do. You must certify every week. Don't forget to certify. And, keep a record of all of the times you certify. You need to certify once a week. You need to answer their questions that you didn't work and you weren't offered work and all of that. But in terms of the delay in getting benefits, I have no good answers for you. There's just, I think things are getting a little bit better. I think more money is coming through, but there's still incredible delays. I mean, for those of you who want more, see what's going on with other people, there's, there are a couple of Facebook groups just dealing with unemployment in New York State. And they don't provide all of that much information, but they do let you know what's happening with other people.
Great, thank you. I just want to add a little bit of this. Can Dee do the same secure message and request help from there?
You can say things like, I answered a question wrong. Please correct it. Don't forget to put
Just
the
to
last
get a hold of them. Yeah.
the last four of your social security. You know, it's not like someone answers them. Really, basically, you're just making a record so that if you have to go to a hearing, you can show that you did everything you needed to do.
Great. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. And of course, there are a lot of drivers that are doing the best they can to gather information or trying to figure out how to correctly answer the questions. But sometimes there are certain complications that are totally unforeseen. For example, right before the pandemic hits, you know, some drivers went on vacation, you know, back home and expected to stay like, you know, 3 weeks or at least 30 days, then come back to work. And in between, you know, the stay-at-home order, you know, kicks in and they cannot get back. So the question is, can those folks be able to apply for unemployment while they're abroad?
I think you can apply, but what you cannot do, and they're really very fussy about this, is you cannot certify from out of the country unless you call them first and get approval. Now, this is from the old days when, you know, someone would go, you know, file for unemployment and then go away for 6 months. And they took that as a sign that you weren't seriously looking for work. So they have blocked your ability to certify from outside of the US. And if you try to do it, because sometimes you can get around the block, they will charge you with fraud. So please be careful not to try to certify from out of the country unless you get prior approval.
That's good to know for the guys that are watching us from abroad. There you go, your answer. If you have somebody, you know, a friend, family member that's abroad, let them know what they need to do. And our next question.
Don't give anyone your PIN number. Some people have tried to get around this by having friends or relatives certify for them. They have a way of catching up with that. So do not do that either.
Thank you. Great advice. I'll move on to Tina for our next question. I think Tina's having issue with that unmute button. Are you there, Tina?
Yes, I am.
All right.
Hi, Professor.
Hi.
So, you know, we know that the DOL has never faced these numbers of application before, and that they're rolling out, you know, new kinds of assistance at this time. Can you talk about what this has meant for drivers in terms of wait time, and what would they, you know, what can they expect going forward?
What can they expect
going forward if all the wait time?
Forward? I wish I could tell you. They've hired a huge number of workers who don't know much, but they're trying. They realize that this is a terrible situation. They're, you know, the real problem was that the system that they had was incredibly outmoded before this ever happened. You know, they had no email capabilities. You had to fax papers in. Nobody even has a fax machine anymore. So they were really, it wasn't as if they just had to ramp up for this. They had to improve their systems that were 20 years old or 30 years old. So I really can't predict when they're going to get on top of this. The most hopeful scenario is that some people get back to work, and then we're just going to worry about retroactive benefits for everyone.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much. And I want to just ask a quick question, like related to age. Does it factor into, like, you know, the amount of benefits you will get with, you know, in regard to unemployment? Some drivers are, like, you know, a little older and wondering, you know, if their age will kind of give them some kind of edge, you know, in getting more money.
I'm not, if you're older, you get more money, I don't think so.
All right. Because I was thinking about, multiplying my age like overnight to get, to that benefit level.
No,
And
you should understand if you decide you want to take Social Security,
right.
That doesn't affect your eligibility for unemployment insurance benefits. I think there were some questions about workers' comp. You can get workers' comp and unemployment benefits under certain circumstances. But remember, with regard to any kind of disability or workers' comp, you have to show that you're ready, willing, and able to work. Doesn't have to be the same job. I assume there's some people who have some disabilities now and can't drive, but they could do other work. So that doesn't disqualify you from getting unemployment insurance benefits.
Great. Thank you. So now I want to bring in Michelle.
Hi, Professor.
Hi there.
The question says, should drivers keep recertifying weekly, even though there are no updates on their application?
Absolutely. They must recertify weekly. Even if you get denied benefits, okay, keep certifying. Because if the denial gets reversed, you will get retroactive benefits if you certified every week.
Great. And the next question, some drivers are receiving follow-up letters after getting PUA approval notices, asking the same info they already submitted. How responding or not impacts their application?
I don't really know. I think if they ask for information, you should send it, even if it's the same information you've already sent. It's just like chaos there. So, they don't know what's going on. So unless it's too burdensome, I would send in your Schedule C, your 1099s if they ask for it, or your W-2s, whatever you have. And,
okay, great. Thank you, Professor.
So, Professor, I just want to be conscious of your time that you're giving us. I know we have you for about 5 more minutes.
That's fine.
So, yeah, I just want to make sure that we're there, and maybe we can start addressing some of the questions that we have from the Q&A.
Thank you. Yeah, great. Because we are so passionate about this topic that yes, if no one stops us, we're just gonna keep going and going. And thank you so much, Brandon, for flagging that. And we got about 5 minutes to go, but we'll try to cover at least 2-3 more questions.
Okay.
So I got one question that comes from the Facebook audience. This is being streamed live on Facebook, of course. DOL sent emails saying they already sent our monetary determination letters on May 3rd, but I still did not receive it. So should I wait or go ahead and submit documentation online?
You should not submit another application. The best thing to do is just wait and or try to get through on the secure website or by phone or calling your representatives. That's all the advice we can give.
Thank you for that clarification. And I want to bring it Henry. I know we touched on that question a little bit earlier, but I think bringing more clarity to that can be very helpful again. Henry, come on in.
Okay, this question is relating to the car accident. This driver, he got into the car accident. Yes, so the question is very simple. He's collecting the workers' compensation fund. Is he still eligible to apply for the unemployment benefit? He is receiving the payment from the workers' injury fund from the last year, the car accident that he got into.
Okay.
So, Professor, just so you know, black car drivers in New York City are covered for workman's compensation under the Black Car Fund. So if they're injured on the job, they're entitled to workman's compensation.
Okay, if they're entitled to workers' compensation, if they're getting some proportion of their salary, I don't know how much, probably if it's over the amount of unemployment, the $504, you know, I would have to, you'd have to do a little bit of research on this. But my sense is that you're not going to be able to get unemployment insurance. If you're getting
Okay.
less than that, you can probably get
He,
unemployment insurance.
he is getting $150 a week.
$150?
Yes.
So he should apply for unemployment. The worst that happens is they'll turn him down, but he should definitely apply.
Okay.
And by the way, one question that I've seen is where you should apply. You apply where you work, not where you live. Okay. If you work in more than one state, you can apply to either state. And my feeling is that, for example, if you work in New Jersey and in New York, if you can show that you work a substantial amount in New Jersey, I believe the benefit levels in New Jersey are higher. The $600 is the same for everyone, but the weekly pay may be higher in New Jersey.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Actually, that's like one very pressing question. Thank you, Professor, for clarifying that, because you know, New York, Jersey, Connecticut, like, you know, as drivers, we are always between those states, and it was very confused to know which state you gotta, where do you apply for unemployment from. So that's really important.
It's probably not enough if you drive in New Jersey. Whoever, you know, who's ever processing the pay would have to be in New Jersey.
Great, great. So here is my other question. The other question also that we have from many drivers: how do DOL determine payout amount? Because
the payout amount.
Yes.
Online, it's a somewhat complicated system. You have to put in your quarterly wages, and it can be it can be either the 4 quarters skipping the quarter nearest to when you stopped working, or it can be 4 quarters counting from when you stopped working. The simple answer is there is a benefit calculator online, okay, under the DOL unemployment insurance website. If you go in there on that calculator and plug in your income by quarter, it will tell you what your benefits are. Now, if you get a 1099 and it's just for the year, one question is, well, how do they figure out the quarters, what you earn quarterly? And as far as we can tell, they're just dividing it into quarters. So if you got a 1099, you know, you just figure it out how much you earn for any calendar quarter. So divide your 1099 by 4, put in those numbers, and that will give you your benefit rate.
Thank you so much. A quick follow-up question. If a person is, for example, given $182, and they feel like, you know, they should get more, can they contest that that amount and go take steps to kind of
Yes.
get more, or how do they go
Yes.
about it?
There is online something called a request for reconsideration of monetary determination. And that's the form you want to fill out and send it in to them. And if you can't find that, or if you don't see it, or it doesn't make sense to you, do it through a secure message. Put the details in the message, take a screenshot of the message, and eventually someone will pay attention.
Thank you so much, Professor. This has been great, you know, very excited. So I'm gonna pass it on to Brendan Sexton.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you so much for your time. If we could just stress one more question, if you got another minute. I've just been noticing a lot on the chat and the Q&A that some drivers have accidentally put in some incorrect information, or they marked the wrong box. So a lot of questions are, what should I do to follow up to make those changes?
That's the really tough one. The only thing you can do is try to get through on the phone or through the secure message site. A lot of people are in that position. The questions are quite confusing. If for any reason you haven't filled out the application yet, go through the questions ahead of time and see if you can get some help in filling out the application. But if you've already filled it out and you've made a mistake, you just have to try to get through to someone on the phone and correct it. And I think it's, you know, some of our elected representatives are doing a good job with this. So that would be one avenue that I would definitely try.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So before we close, Brandon, I just want to ask one more question because we got audience watching it everywhere, even questions pouring in from Twitter. That's amazing. This is exciting. So one of our Twitter followers is asking about, you know, given that, you know, the taxi industry is not it's not blowing up anymore, no rides. So most drivers are reverted to like, you know, taking delivering packages or doing delivery work. So they want to know if that delivery work will disqualify them from UI PUA.
So I didn't catch the question. They want to go back to work doing something else?
No, right now they are just doing delivery work. A lot of delivery work, delivering packages or, you know, throughout the city. That's work, but they want to know how that impact their unemployment benefits.
You have to report every day that you work, okay? And for every day that you work, they will subtract 1/4 of your benefit. You'll still get the $600, but for example, if you qualified for 182, which is a lot of people what they put down, and you work 1 day delivering packages, they would subtract 1/4 of that from your weekly benefit, okay? So again, you wanna try to earn as much as you can in as few days as possible. But, and if you earn more than $504, you cannot collect unemployment and you cannot get the $600.
Thank you so much. Brandon, you're up.
Yeah, Professor, thank you so much for your time. We're looking forward to continuing the relationship and working together. If you'd like to close out with anything, we'd appreciate it.
Good. I'll send you some background information, some updated information.
Yeah, Professor,
Okay,
would
awesome.
it be okay if we send out to our members information on how to reach out to you when you are when you open up in June?
I will. Yeah, I will do that to you. But don't just don't expect an immediate call. June 1st is really our launch date.
Okay, well that's great. We really appreciate that. There were, you know, there's lots and lots of questions. They're still coming in, and we really appreciate the service you're providing to all the workers in New York, but particularly for our drivers. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good luck, everybody.
Thank you, Professor.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great. That was really good. I'm really happy that the professor came on and was able to answer some questions. As we understand, it's difficult to answer all questions because those answers just don't exist yet. And we are trying incredibly hard to get some answers for these questions. So please keep sending in your questions. We'll keep filtering them and finding answers if we don't have them today. If you've missed some of the webinar at the beginning, I think some of these answers have already been, some of these questions have already been answered towards the beginning, and we'll try to get back through to them. Now I am going to turn it to Andrew Greenblatt, the Executive Director of the Independent Driver IDG Benefits.
Thank you. Thanks, Brendan. So I'm just going to talk for a couple of minutes about benefits, and then I'm going to hand the meeting back to Brendan. Do I hand it back to you or to Aziz when I'm done?
You can hand it back to me.
Hand it back to you. Okay. So I just wanted to talk for just a minute about other things that are available. So this was a webinar that we worked with the IDG to set up. We had been getting a lot of questions in our call center and through emails and texts asking questions about unemployment. We do have a resource page. If you go to drivers benefits. That's drivers is plural and benefits is plural, .org. Then you can see information that we have about how to apply for unemployment insurance. We walk you through each question and explain each question. So, you know, it would have explained about like that, can you work over the telephone? You know, people had been misinterpreting that as, well, I could if you offered me a job, but really what they're asking is, in the job that you had, could you have worked from home? And so that's explained on the website, and we explain all those kinds of tricky questions for drivers. All of that information is written from the perspective of what drivers need to know. It's not just like the general Q&As that are out there that the state puts out or things like that. It's really very much focused on, if you're a driver, how should you answer this question? You know, what does this mean for you as a driver? We also have information on how to handle the PPP, and if you're trying to get those loans forgiven. We have information if you do need other financial assistance, if you're having trouble paying your rent, if you are having trouble paying for food. You know, there are resources out there. Nobody should be going to bed hungry. Nobody should have to avoid a doctor because they can't afford to pay for it. There are resources in the city to deal with that, and we connect you to those resources. So please check those out if you need any help with anything. If you do sign up for driver's benefits, it is free and free for all drivers. And you can, if you haven't been driving for the last few weeks because of the pandemic, that's okay. You still qualify. You can get access to a doctor for free over the phone whenever you need to speak with one. You can, if you need to talk to someone about mental health issues, if the stress is really been a huge problem for you, you can talk to get counseling either by telephone with us or through the Independent Drivers Guild. There's lots and lots of other resources. So if you haven't signed up, please do. We do this all for you, and you should take advantage of it. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you very much, Brendan. I appreciate you giving me the time to talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. And if you have not signed up for your free driver benefits, please do.